Hola, hola. Good morning, Miss Tiffany.
Good morning, Miss Gina.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing good too. It's
Yeah.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday. Wait,
Sunday kind
honest.
of. Wait, how does
Yeah.
that song?
No, I was gonna sing Sunday morning. You can live with the free.
I
Gwen
don't think I know
Stefani,
that
no
one.
doubt.
Oh no.
There's a little piece of.
Dang it.
Oh, but there's that other song, Sunday morning or something like that.
I don't know.
I don't
It's
know. They
Sunday.
played on. Yeah, it's Sunday. It's the day before we
Ah,
start back or when we go back to work.
yes. Oh, why'd you
Oh,
have to
I know.
remind
Sorry.
me?
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. Hey, think about it this way. It's the money maker.
Oh.
You need a job to
Ugh.
make money.
Stop reminding me. I don't like to think about these things until later in the evening.
Hey, but you know what? Just think about it. More money, más cosas que vivir.
I
Y
guess
hacer.
so.
Vacaciones,
I see. I need a
purses.
vacation so bad.
So do I.
I like always need a vacation.
So do I. I need a vacation from the vacation.
Right.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
No, you know what? But you just don't know how to chill. That's the thing. And I think a lot of people do that. And I've heard somewhere that they say like Europeans or something make fun of Americans and how they like vacation
Mm-hmm.
because when they vacation they like make all these plans. They're like doing so much. But like when Europeans vacation, they're like actually
Chilling.
relaxing. Yeah, and they're
Oh,
not like
sure.
trying to do all these things and go all these sites.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we need a vacation from our vacation.
I believe that.
That's why for my 30th birthday, I went to a resort in Mexico and I
Mm-hmm.
did absolutely nothing. Like I just stayed at
Wow.
the resort. We did all of the stuff that was in there and we had a lot of time to just chill.
Chill.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
felt very
jeez.
rested.
Yeah, that's not how I vacation.
I love
I just came back. Well,
it.
I went to Walt Disney World,
Mm.
and let me tell you, it was intense. There was nonstop, nonstop going, like nonstop.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever want to do that again. I feel like you need a day in between
Yeah,
stuff like that.
you do.
But man, was I tired. I was
Yeah.
tired when I got back, and then I went straight to work.
Hmm.
So it was intense. And
Girl, I've been doing like to where I travel, I either take the half day the next day off or I take the whole day off. Cuz I need that
yeah.
time to just like fully recover
Hmm.
and like relax, get my sleep back in schedule. Otherwise, I'm absolutely effed. Like
Really?
I
Yeah,
can't
and I
function.
don't. I just come back and it's like, all right, let's go straight to work. If I come back on a Saturday, the next day I'm doing laundry
Mhm. Dang,
or
girl, you just don't stop.
I don't know how to
You
stop.
know why I've had to do it too though? Because I get a little bit depressed from coming back. I get majorly like there's been times where I get down. Like I'm like
Really?
I just want to stay by the beach, have a tamarindo
Oh
margarita.
my
I
gosh.
don't want to go sit at my desk all day. Like so that's why sometimes I need a little extra time just to like mentally get back into being home.
Really?
Yes, girl. I'm very sensitive.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, let's be honest. This week we kind of had a rough
We
week.
did.
You were sick and I was sick.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing. I went to the urgent center, got my leg looked at,
Oh my gosh.
and the next day, against, people's wishes,
Uh-huh.
I went to work.
Of course you did.
And I literally had to leave work because I was in so much freaking pain. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
And like I had tears coming down my eyes because I was hurting so much. I had a pinched nerve. So I have a
Oh.
tendency of cracking like my pelvic bone.
Oh shit. How
It's
do
the
you do that?
nasty. Yeah, it's the nastiest thing ever.
Dang,
I
girl, you
I
can
know.
crack your pelvic
Oh
bone?
yeah, I can get
Shit.
down, down,
Dang,
down.
Gina.
Shorty guy, low, low.
I didn't know you had it like that.
Oh, trust me.
Ay, cállate. Get on topic. Get on topic. Pinch nerve. Pinch nerve.
Okay, pinch nerve, pinch nerve. Let's get all the malicious thoughts out of the brain right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, pinch nerve. The next day I was hurting so much.
Oh my god.
I was hurting so much. So, I was on muscle relaxers and man, are they helpful. But yeah, I don't know how to stop. Like I
No.
don't like I can't. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that leads to trauma, like being small where it was just constantly go, 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 go,
Yeah.
that I don't know how to relax.
Yeah.
So I think you're always really good about that. And I'm jelly about that because you're like, nope, I'm staying home. I'm sick and I'm sick and I'm sick and that's it.
Yeah.
And good for you because
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of us that suffer and struggle with that.
Girl,
So.
I take health days. Sorry, I take mental health days. What the hell is
Good.
that?
I know. Come on, Tiffany, stay on topic here.
Mucho café, mucho café.
Yes. For everyone out there, we just had a whole thing of 7 Leaves coffee.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
But hey, last week we left off on a good topic.
Oh, yeah.
And you shared a little bit about, well, you didn't share. You left us kind of hanging.
I did.
So I think you should go back and relay and if you feel comfortable talking about that subject, that would be good to know.
Okay. So disclaimer, I am about to trauma dump on all of you guys.
El chisme se pone bueno.
So I forget that I have a tendency to like always use the phrase my parents' situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through this trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emotional trauma, about my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I even posted a reel and I was like, I feel like I haven't been able to be myself, or like I feel like I've been, what did I say? I don't even remember, but you guys will see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
you
I said,
struggled a lot.
Yeah, I did.
And when I first, sorry to interrupt you, but when I first like met you, there was a lot of hurt right there, a lot of unhealed wounds with your parent situation.
But I didn't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I've always struggled, I guess with my identity. I've always been trying to search for myself. I think that's the way to put it. And I never really realized why. I always just felt like there was just like this wall. Like I couldn't break through and I couldn't feel free. Mm-hmm. I thought it was mostly religion. And I think a part of it is because my family was very religious. So you couldn't really do a lot of things. You couldn't really have a good personality because it just wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't
permitted.
Yeah, you have to like put yourself on the back burner and God has to be everything in all things, which is to a certain extent, yeah, but it's not healthy the way that my family did it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I struggled a lot with that, and then come to find out that it was for a very, very intense reason. And so when I said in the reel, like my life, I lived a lie my entire life up until I was 28 years old. So I guess I will, I'm going to tell you what happened. And I don't know, did I ever tell you, Gina?
I know part of it.
Part of it, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did mention it, like I think way back when, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 28 years old, my mother came to me and told me that I had a different father than my siblings.
Right.
And up until that point, I had my suspicions.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt off. Like I felt like I was not like my siblings. I never felt connected. And this is something that I have to work through therapy now. And that's why I've struggled in my regular daily relationships, because I've never felt like a connection. I've always felt disconnected. And it was because of that huge lie that was in my life till I was 20 years old. Like my mom didn't tell me. She held that in for that long. And I'm like, how?
Right.
I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So I understood at that point a lot of her own emotional trauma and her turmoil and why things were so chaotic emotionally for her, because that's a huge, huge deal. So that was you know what I was trying to refer to.
Right.
It took a long time to heal from that. I think from 28 to like I think I didn't start to feel somewhat normal until about a year and a half ago. And then once I moved into this place, which was like a year ago, I like really was just like, okay, I'm in a better track. Well, actually, it was more like January last year.
Yeah.
Because I quit my job.
Yeah.
And I like finally got the courage to just be like, you know what? I'm worth more, because I got into a really, really bad slump. I didn't value myself anymore. I just felt terrible. Like it was horrible. It was horrible. So yeah, that's like when I refer to my parent situation, that's what it is. So for me, it was, I grew up believing that, I had a certain dad, but he passed away when I was about 12 years old because he was an alcoholic. He died of cirrhosis. Wow. So that's my siblings, my older half siblings' father. And I always grew up thinking that he was my dad. I didn't have a relationship. I'd never met him.
Okay.
Actually, no, I did meet him twice. Once was with my uncle had hid, like he took me and he like secretly did it. He let me meet him. Yeah, it was when I was really young. We were visiting in Colorado, and my uncle took me to go see him.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and I felt bad. I remember him. He looked interesting, you know? And then the second time I saw him was on his deathbed.
Oh.
Yeah. So nice. I only saw this man 2 times in my entire life. So I thought he was my dad, and I like felt bad because I didn't mourn his death because I didn't know him. Right. You know? So I felt really terrible about that. And now in hindsight, I'm like, how horrible that they like let me believe that that was my father, and I felt bad because I didn't know him and I wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
crying for him.
And then it turns out to be
And he's
that.
not my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew that I knew that this was probably a thing. I just had that intuition, and there were little things that would come out here and there
Mm-hmm.
because I did the DNA testing
Oh,
for
wow.
23andMe, and I
Mm-hmm.
did it alongside my sister and my brother-in-law.
I do remember that story.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So that's where I was really like, and I was still kind of in denial because the DNA test came back and it'll match you with relatives, and it
Mm-hmm.
matched with her 27%. But it should actually be 50% if she's my
Right.
full sibling. And it was 27%. And I was just like, that's weird. Like, is this legit? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know. You're like, this
Yeah.
is a freaking website thing, whatever. But yeah, and then I mentioned it to my cousin once, and she was like, well, there were rumors. And I was like, oh, shoot.
Oh.
So that's where it really started to like, okay, I think that this is true, and my mom's been hiding this from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she tried to tell me for like a good solid year, but she kept chickening out. And I knew it, and I would avoid her too because I knew
Wow.
that it was coming. And
Wow.
you could tell, you guys, my best friend Melina, I would call her and be like, I think like she's trying to tell me. And it's just,
And she
it
couldn't
was,
just get the courage.
no. But I mean, I don't know. I said it in my YouTube video, I shared
Mm-hmm.
it, but it's kind of sad. Like, it's not like I'm trying to air out her dirty laundry, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also my story.
Right. It's part of you.
Yeah,
Your
and
identity.
I struggled so hard, Gina. Like I was in an intense, like such a low, terrible depression.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was horrible, horrible. I couldn't get out of it for so long. And I would talk to one of my other best friends, and she was the only one that really like helped me get through a lot of it. She would
Mm-hmm.
understand me and she would talk to me. But it was so hard. It was
Yeah.
so hard. And the only reason I assume I don't have the concrete facts. Sort of. I do, but I don't. I believe the only reason that she even told me about it was because she started dating him again. Yeah.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
really?
It was very traumatic.
Oh
So
shit. How
I
did you
found
feel
out,
about that?
girl, that's the thing. So when she told me about it, this is really, really sad. Like,
Well, I mean, if you don't feel like discussing it,
no, I
don't.
do. I'm
Don't.
very comfortable with it, but I mean, it's very sad because I feel bad for my mom at the same time.
Right.
But when she told me about it,
Mm-hmm.
I was in such a good place emotionally, and I think God put it in that way for me to find out at this point. I think everything worked out perfectly because
Mm-hmm.
I was already so strong emotionally, mentally at that point. And if it had happened at another point in my life, I don't think I could have gotten through it.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I sat down, she sat down with me. We had the conversation, and I was very calm, which is not really like me, especially
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like F you, like I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If I get to that point, I will get to that point. But I was very calm, and I pretty much consoled her.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think that's okay. And in the moment, I knew that it was wrong and I shouldn't have done it, but I couldn't help myself,
Yeah.
you know? And that's how my whole childhood was, you know? It was like tiptoeing around everybody else's emotions and being there for them, but like there was never any space for
For
me.
you. No. Your
And
feelings didn't matter at this
no,
point.
they
You
never
kind of have
mattered.
to.
I was treated by a relative. I'll just say a relative because I don't want to be so
Yeah.
like, I think people can read between the lines, but I don't want it to seem like I'm trying to put people down.
Right. Of course.
But a relative would always treat me like my opinion never mattered because I was some dumb young little girl. And so
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with that, like thinking that I didn't have a voice. I didn't do
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't even noticed, you
Yeah.
know? So I had to work through all of that. Now, I'm pretty bold and,
Absolutely.
but I wasn't always like that. It's a lot of
Wow.
healing that I've had to do within to just like be a different person. So, yeah, going back to my mom consoling her and all that stuff, that happened and everything was fine. I thought I had moved past it. I thought it was fine. And I think because I was also busy with school, I
Mm-hmm.
was going back to community college. I was almost done and I was going to graduate the next May.
Right.
So I was finishing up my last fall
Semester.
semester. So I was busy and I think I was like, I'm handling this so well. Like I wasn't an emotional wreck. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was really good. I was like, damn, I'm strong. I'm good at this, whatever. But then probably when I found out that they were dating, that's when I was like, fuck this.
And that has to be a shocker. Like
Yeah.
that has to be. I think that's like a low point, like a low hit below the belt kind of per se.
It is, but it also changes your perspective and your perception of a person. Because I always saw my mom as like, she did have her emotional issues and she clearly like struggled with a lot of things. You know, there's a whole story behind that too, but it made me realize that she never valued herself. My mother never had a backbone and she was just not the person that I at least thought she was. So that was hard, but finding out that I had a dad didn't hurt my feelings. What hurt my feelings was finding out that he was alive and lived in California. That was what hurt. Because I don't know. In my mind, I never thought that I had to resurrect a person. Like, to me, my dad was dead. For years. My whole teenage years up till I was 28 years old. I thought that this man was dead. So even the idea, like, I never actually thought about it, which is what trips me out. I never thought about, like, oh, yeah, I probably have a different dad. But, like, for me, it was like, he's not even a real figure.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when I found out that he is a real figure, he lives here, like, that hurt my feelings. Because I was like, this man didn't even want to be involved in my life. Like, what the heck?
But hold on. Let me stop you right there. Because I feel like us as children kind of put that, like, they didn't want to be in our life. But what if it was vice versa, where it's like your mom didn't want him in your life?
So I don't know. That's the thing. And I do suspect that a lot of it was probably toxicity from my mother's side. But I don't know. Like, I don't know the story and I haven't asked because I want to know, but I don't want to have to ask.
Right.
Which is it kind of sucks. But I know that there's like a whole thing there. I don't know because come to find out his family, his siblings, my aunts and uncles were actually involved in my life when I was little. Oh, and wow. I remember specifically one lady, which is technically my aunt. She was around and I absolutely loved her. So we would go visit her when I was little. And my mom would make me believe that she was just her friend.
Oh, shit.
So
oh, wow.
Imagine how fucked up this is. Like, I start to realize, like, my whole fucking life was a lie. All of it. These people that I was just like, I didn't even know that they were my family.
And they've been there this whole time.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he was nowhere to be found.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was intense. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot to handle. I'm okay now.
Okay, good. I mean, at this point, like from the time that I've known you, you've obviously grown so much. I can definitely say that.
Yeah.
You've grown so much because I remember like when we first started talking, we would bring up certain stuff and you would just like, I mean, you would either have a meltdown or you were just like, fuck, no, I'm not talking about this. You don't need, it was very standoffish and that wall would just automatically come up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank God your therapy paid off and you paid lots of money into that.
I did. And there was a point where my insurance wasn't covering much. Yeah. So I had to pay a good amount out of pocket. Good. But I was just desperate to get help. I didn't have people around. I didn't have anybody to talk to. Nobody is going to know. No, right. A lot of people don't have to go through this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like no one really knows how to connect with it. But I was fine that whole time. And then, so that was in August on my 28th birthday. And then come January that's when things started to change because that's when I found out she was dating him.
Right.
And she had posted something on Instagram. It was like a picture of her nightstand because she had like redecorated or something. And I was like, what is that? That looks
familiar.
She had a picture on her nightstand and it was a picture of her and him. And that's how I found out they were dating.
Oh, shit.
And so I called her out. At this point, the gloves were off. I was like, how fucked up is this? Like, I called her out on everything.
Yeah.
And she didn't like that because I had been so nice and like, whatever. At this point, I was like, you know what? She doesn't give a fuck. So I'm not going to give a fuck either.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I called her out on it. She didn't like me. She ended up blocking me on Instagram.
What?
Yes, girl, it was messy. But
oh my gosh, Instagram is toxic.
You know what? People are toxic.
No,
people are toxic, Yeah. So that was that whole situation. And then I went back because so this is where I was like, okay, the Toxica Tiffany is coming out because I had her on my phone plan. And I went back to my phone records.
Tiffany.
And I found out that they had been talking for a while before that. All of his phone number was coming up on all of this whole long list of shit. Long conversations. And I was like, you know what? This is not healthy.
Yeah.
And that's how I found out they were dating before. And I was like, that's probably why they told me about it. So anyway, that happened. And I was like, this is not healthy. Now I'm going to become obsessive. So I
Yeah.
told her, you know what? You need to get your own phone plan. You need to get off by this time. If you're not off, like, I'm just going to boot you because you got to figure it out. Because I had been
Mhm.
taking care of a lot of things for her.
Mhm.
That's just how she was, She, like, never was, like, that independent. So
Yeah.
everybody else picked up her slack.
Yeah.
So I was like, get off of my phone plan. I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want anything to do with any of them.
Right.
So that was, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was messy.
But you guys are in better terms now.
Yeah, but she doesn't recognize,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like the hurt and
Well, I think it's it's sad to say, but it's traumatic for them as well because it's like a domino effect,
yeah.
Mom, her mom, your mom, and
Mhm.
it's like somewhere along the line someone has to cut this off.
Yeah.
And good thing that it's going to be you.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, you worked on yourself, and if you ever become a mom, I know you're going to be a great mom. Um but there's so much trauma that you've dealt with that you've been able to understand it and go through it and see it.
Yeah.
That they didn't have this opportunity. And
Right.
sometimes it's ignorance, or sometimes it's the fact that being, for example, my mom came from a different country. They're not open to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
They don't know what's up here. They don't know what the resources are and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad to say, but we are that generation that breaks through that, where
Mhm.
it's like we know how to fend, and we know we've grown up here. We know the language. We know how things work.
Yeah.
And we definitely have a better platform than what they did.
Oh, for sure. I 100% agree. But I think that it just makes you realize that a lot of people behave a certain way or do things because of hurt and just like an emptiness.
Yeah.
Because if she was strong, if she genuinely had the courage to be self-loving and taking care of herself, she would not put herself back into that situation.
Yeah, but it's really hard. When you're, well, let's go back to this. When you're a depressive person,
Yeah.
you don't have the help. You have nothing to live for, and you've never been accountable, and there's no accountability. This is exactly what happens to you. There is nothing you need to be accountable, and everybody else picks up your shit. There's nothing there for you. Everybody takes care of it, and you have nothing to offer.
Right.
So, I think that's
pretty much her story.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's very sad. You view it, but it's also, I'm a
But
little.
you know what's sad to me is that she doesn't even see it.
Well, I don't believe people don't see it. I believe people are they cut that off. It's they're in denial. That's what I believe. It's like they know their story, because think about it. When you've done wrong stuff, you go to bed.
Yeah.
Because you're accountable and I'm accountable.
Yeah.
We go to bed and we sit there and we overthink and overanalyze, and it's like, shit, we fucked this up.
And later we try to fix it.
And you try to fix it.
Yeah.
But because there's accountability and we have different resources.
That's true.
I think people like them, they don't have that, or their brain doesn't operate it. I think you and I are in a whole different level where we think about a lot of shit.
Right.
And we've been exposed to so much.
Right.
As growing up and as adults, that we have this extra thinking mechanism of us thinking. I think a lot of people lack that common sense.
Right.
And again, when you're not accountable to shit, there's nothing there for you.
I think that's a part of dissociating from real life.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
You're in denial.
Yeah, you don't want to take care of anything.
No.
Not even your own emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my story. And
pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's very
thanks for
interesting.
sharing it, because we needed some clarification on that.
Yeah. So. And it's definitely something, and that's what I think my point was in even the last few episodes, and even why I love our podcast, because it's about being true and being honest to yourself and not living in lies.
Yeah.
Because lies hurt people.
Yeah, they do.
And it's ridiculous. Like, why are we so afraid and have to lie about things? Let's just be honest with ourselves, honest with other people. I think sometimes we're even afraid of others.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think if people were more receptive to stuff, we wouldn't have to be so afraid. But there's people out there that you tell your story to, and they switch that and they flip that and they hurt you.
Yeah.
And you count on people and you trust people, and you never expect that person to turn back on you, and they do.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, you want to be honest, you want to cry for help, but then is it going to be thrown in your face? And I think as human beings in the time that we're living right now, there's a lot of that going on.
It's really sad.
It's very sad.
But I think as a parent, it's a huge responsibility to be honest with your children
Mm-hmm.
and carry yourself a certain way. Because I'll tell you, like, even psychologically, children know what's going on
Oh, yeah.
at a very, very, very young age.
Well, this is a great conversation that you brought up
Mm-hmm.
because I believe in this.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in, and there's, maybe with time I'll get into my story because I have somewhat of a similar story
Mm-hmm.
that I found out not too long
Oh,
ago,
right. Uh-huh.
but I just don't feel comfortable discussing right now.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe eventually one day we will.
Someday, maybe.
But I, even before I knew the story,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a believer that you tell your kids how things are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten so much judgment and so many looks and so much of like, how
Mm-hmm.
dare you do this? But I am a firm believer that if someone passes away,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the first one to say, hey, listen, this and this and this is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten criticism from people. It's like, that's not how you say things. And it's like, no, because I'm training my kids and I want them to know that the real world
Mm-hmm.
is not going to be pretty.
Right.
The real world is going to treat you like the real world with
Right.
no kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to be walking around and painting it pretty for you. None of
Yeah.
that stuff. So
Wow.
might as well be honest from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you're the parent and you're teaching them, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but you're teaching them how to survive
Right.
in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So sugarcoating shit, I don't believe in sugarcoating shit.
Yeah.
I'm just point blank honest. And they're going to find out anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish...
It better be from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish my parents would have been more open and honest in telling me
Mm-hmm.
instead of me trying, like, hearing this shit from other people or cousins or family
Right.
members. Just fucking, at the end of the day, you're the adult.
Well, let me tell you this other side of the story is that in psychology you learn that children pick up on all of this stuff. They
Mhm.
know. So it's like even tantrums,
Mhm.
they are a reflection of a need.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something going on. Every action, every reaction or every action is a reaction to something that's going on. And I think that people don't recognize that. And sometimes we treat children as though they're just like they don't comprehend things. But it's like that's not true. They know
That's not
everything.
true.
And to talk to them like a normal adult, of course there are some things that you can make that judgment call and be like,
Yes.
no, this is definitely not something they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of things that they should know.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to honesty, that's why now I'm like, I want to be as honest as I can possibly be, authentic as I can possibly be, because I don't want to affect somebody the way that I was affected by someone else's life. And that's when I said the puppet masters and the strings in that reel, because my life was manipulated for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And they held me with these strings, invisible strings that I didn't even know I had. And then
Mhm.
now, in hindsight, I realized why I had so many issues.
Right.
Because spiritually, I was tied up by them,
Mm-hmm.
But come full circle, like even my half sister, she told me that she knew. She always knew. And I was just like, how can you live a life where you're preaching the gospel or doing certain things, saying you're Christian, but you're still holding a lie?
Mm-hmm.
And if you come and say, it's not my responsibility, it is, because it's a lie. And at that point, you're an accomplice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the law is like that too. If you're associating with somebody that's breaking the law, you can go to jail as well.
Yeah, you're an accessory.
That's the word I was looking for.
You're an accessory. Yeah.
And to not even acknowledge that, it makes me so sad, because it's like we have Christianity and we have biblical standards all wrong.
Absolutely.
All freaking wrong.
Absolutely.
And to hold a lie for so long, I think is absolutely fucked up.
Yeah. Well, here. And again, going back to that subject, but when I found out about certain things, I asked, how come you guys didn't say any of this? And I remember someone saying, well, it wasn't our place. Fuck that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I felt like it was your place to say something. You could have pulled me to the side and mentioned something instead of now we look like, like idiots.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody fucking knows this shit.
Yeah.
Except for us. How fucked up is that?
So what helped me move on really well was I was watching this guy. His name is Dr. John Deloney. He's a psychologist and he has a podcast, and he takes calls from people and he like evaluates or he just talks to them about like their most traumatic things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was a very similar situation to mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, because the person that was talking to him was like, yeah, I know this secret. Like, how do I tell them? And he's like, yes, you absolutely do, because regardless, it's an admission of truth. And he goes, what you can do, because you obviously want to respect as much as you can the other person that's like actually holding the lie that allowed you to be involved in it. So you go to them and tell them, if you don't let them know, I'm going to tell them, because then I can't hold this lie.
Right.
You know? So, excuse me. So when I heard that, I was like, that's so true, because it's also holding the other person accountable for this lie.
Right.
Because how are they going to put you in a position like that?
Right.
You know what I mean? When it is their responsibility to tell the truth.
Yeah.
But it's like you're in on it. So it's like, if you don't let them know by this time, or if you don't let them know at all, like, I have to say something. Because this is, at this point, you're also manipulating this person to hold a lie.
Yeah.
You know? So in that sense, I felt bad for my sister, because I was like, you know, what is she going to do? But at the same time, it's like, how do you go my whole freaking life and not say anything? And then I understood why I was treated so differently.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
I know. It's really sad.
Yeah.
So it's like I have been surrounded by a lot of people that have just been emotionally just
detached.
Yeah.
Your favorite word, desensitized.
Desensitized. Yeah, they were detached. They just don't have, it's just like,
the wall is up there. There's no common sense between any feelings of a human being.
And it's wild to me, because it's people that call themselves Christian. And I don't get the wrong impression. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's all Christians. No, because I'm Christian. I believe in the word. I believe in God. And I try to live my life by that standard as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm not a perfect Christian, trust me. But there's a lot of things that I've realized that is religion and not relationship with God.
Yeah.
And a lot of my family has done religion.
Right.
And misinterpreted the scriptures. And I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think, society in its whole.
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to religion, everybody wants to say and preach and practice and I'm there. But I think a lot of those people are very phony.
Yeah.
So I think when you're, you're true to yourself and accountable to yourself, you can bring so much more to the table. And you live life a different way.
It's more authentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's when a lot of people, you get so much kickback from a lot of people, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're rude. You're an asshole. No, it's just me being honest and choosing to live this way, because if I know something that's hurtful, we got to throw that out there.
I think I was watching the Kardashians or something, and she was like saying a comment, because she like met with her ex, and she was saying, I'd rather tell the truth one time and it hurt you one time than to tell you a lie 7 times and hurt you so many more.
Right.
I was like, that's so true.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow. Yeah. Well, thanks, Tiffany. Yeah. I know it's a tough subject.
It is. Well, it's not anymore,
Yeah.
I mean, for people, they might be like, what the hell? But I've already worked through all of these things, and I've been very open about my story to a lot of people. And it's just, it is what it is,
Yeah.
And I just choose to carry myself differently.
Yeah. And that's fair. And I think that's the beauty of life, where you can, look at all this and surpass it and manage, and it makes you a beautiful, beautiful person after.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to my trauma dump.
You're very welcome. And we shall be here next week again.
Yeah. Listen to our podcast on Spotify,
Apple,
and YouTube.
YouTube. All right. Well, happy Sunday. Have a great week. And we'll be here again next week.
Yes.
Adios.
Thank you for listening.
Simplemente poderosas.
Sí. Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye.